Whoa, 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 whoa. What are you doing? What? I'm doing it right. No, you're not. Are you? No, let me show you. Fine, you show me. That is not safe at all. Let me show you how to do this.
They call me a god. 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 Let's go.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Gun Deity channel. Today we're going to go over proper technique to hold the firearm in order to counter recoil and to make it as safe as possible so you don't get hurt while on the range. The problem with if you have improper grip is you're actually getting to a point where you can be dangerous with the gun without realizing you're being dangerous. Not being able to control the muzzle flip can cause a lot of issues. If you go Google search it or YouTube search it, you could see there are plenty of people who have done accidental double taps and have hurt themselves or others doing so. So I don't want any of you guys to get hurt out on the range, so I'm going to teach you proper grip. There are many different styles of grips. The one I'm going to teach you is the one that I found is the easiest for beginners to grip the firearm with the best recoil control. Okay. What I do is if I have the firearm, I take the web of my hand, okay, right there, right in between the thumb and the index finger, and I put it right up here in the top of the back of the grip. This is called the beaver tail, okay? You want to get it as high as you can without interfering with that slide, because if you get too high, that slide will bite you, okay? Then I wrap my fingers around here, and I get a nice firm grip. Once I have a nice firm grip with this hand, I should be able to hold the gun very steady like this, without my finger on the trigger, without even putting my thumb down. If I got that, then I got a good grip with these fingers, okay? The next one, you see this empty space here? You want to fill as much of that empty space as you possibly can. So the next thing is to bring the base of the palm of your hand up into that well. You want to fill it up as much as that grip as you can with your hand, and that's going to give you the most control with the firearm. Then you wrap these fingers around your other fingers, you give it a nice tight squeeze, okay? Tight squeeze is the key feature here, okay? When you get around it and you get a good squeeze, it should be slightly uncomfortable. If it's comfortable, that means you're not squeezing hard enough to cover the recoil. The next thing I do is I place this thumb forward here, away from the slide, and I place this thumb on top of this thumb. If you place it down here, you're going to ride that slide stop, which I do a lot, and you'll see in my videos that I do a lot, and it's going to cause your firearm not to lock open. I put it over this knuckle here, and it keeps everything nice and clean and clear. This is called a thumbs forward approach, okay? When you do this, you have a nice firm grip of the firearm, and then you can put your finger on the trigger and you can be ready to fire. The next thing, once you get the grip under control, the next thing you want to do is work on your stance. Now, one of the things you want to do is what I teach is squaring up to your target. Now, there is an old style where you would like your isosceles is what they call it, and that's more of a rifle stance. When I was younger, that's how I shot. When you stand like this, the unfortunate thing is because your arm's extended like this and your shoulder is kind of kicked forward, is a lot of the times you end up pulling the firearm to the left or to the right if you're left-handed. And the reason why is because your shoulder is fully extended out like this, and when it is when you relax, the firearm's going to tilt to the left and to the low. And when you tense up, the firearm's going to pull to the left and high. So that does force you to be inaccurate. Best way for me, for beginners, is what they call a squared up stance. And that's when your feet are shoulder width apart, you're standing facing your target, and then when you stand with that, you should be in line this way, standing perpendicular to your target. And when you do that, then you reach out and both your arms should be pretty much even going out, and I like to have a little bit of crease in my elbows. Not a lot, but a little bit. And what that does is it allows you to keep control of the firearm through the entire movement. Once you're squared up and you've got your target, there are two ways you can stand. There is the aggressive stance, and that's where you lean into the firearm a little bit. You pivot at your waist here, loosen your knees a little bit, pivot at the waist, and then aim forward. And what that does is it puts your body into the recoil of the firearm, so that way your whole body can absorb it. Next, more of a straight up stance. Not a leaned back. You don't want to lean back, but straight up. And that one, it works, but I will say it doesn't eat recoil as well as the aggressive stance. Both have their purposes. I am not trained well enough to tell you what the purposes of both are, not in a professional standing, but I understand that the straight up approach allows you to get up off the line quicker. So if you're in a situation where you need to shoot and run, that's a good one. While the aggressive, it's a little harder to get going. Okay, so I could understand the reasoning for both. All right. Last thing is muzzle control. Okay, once you have that grip and you have that stance under control, the next is to understand how the firearm recoils. So when a firearm recoils, it recoils back and up. So your object is to counter that, to go forward and down, right? The problem is a lot of people anticipate that recoil, and what happens is they force that muzzle down. So a good technique that Jerry Miculek teaches is to act like you have a post hole digger at full extension, and you're pushing down with that post hole digger. You're squeezing tight and you're pushing down. And that's a good concept, because when you do that, you keep that muzzle down, and you keep that, you're acting like you're pushing something into the ground, so it keeps the muzzle down and it keeps you on target. That's a good concept to think about. And ever since I learned that video from Jerry, that's what I've been practicing, and it seems to be improving my accuracy and my speed. So that is something that Jerry Miculek teaches, and you should definitely check out his video. He's a master at mastering recoil. So I'm nowhere near there. Here's a good example of how hard you should be gripping. See my hand? I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but it's got imprints from the grip. If it's not imprinting from the grip, there's a good chance you're not gripping hard enough. And like I said, it should be slightly uncomfortable. Not to the point where it hurts, but to the point where you should be like, it's got a little sting to it. Not a lot, but enough to know that you're handling a firearm. You're not handling a toy. Okay, so I'm going to show you some bad techniques and show you what the difference is. So, with the good technique, full extension, notice the muzzle flip, okay? What happens when people do bad technique is you don't have as much control over here. So there's a grip that they used to teach back in the 80s called a teacup. Well, we call it a teacup. I don't know if they used to call it a teacup. But that's when they take the palm of their hand and they hold it down here. What happens is you're not, the only part of your hand that's really controlling the gun is your shooting hand, not your support hand. Your support hand is basically just cupping the bottom of the gun. And what happens, let's see if I can get this in video. Wasn't too bad, but this is also a Glock and a 9mm. But if you notice, the muzzle did flip a lot more than when I used my proper grip, okay? And that's because the only thing that's really supporting the grip is this hand. This one is just, I really have no idea what it's doing. Another grip that a lot of people screw up on is not grabbing high enough on the beaver tail. So if you grab down here, see how much room is down here? What happens is now that muzzle is so much higher than your hand that you get a lot of unintentional muzzle flip. And you see how much that muzzle flipped on that? That's because my grip is way down here and not where it's supposed to be, up here, okay? If you're not gripping tight enough, That's another issue. So you could have the proper grip stance, but just barely holding onto the firearm. And you see how much muzzle flip was in that? So these are all things that could cause issues. Another thing is the gangster grip. Everyone knows the gangster grip. Everyone thinks it looks pretty cool, don't get me wrong. But realistically, I mean, you can control it, but you can't really aim it, okay? So you can aim up and down pretty decently, but left and right is all over the place. So it doesn't make any sense to do the gangster grip. It's dumb. Now, one-handed grip, as long as you got a good control over the firearm, good grip here, good grip here, you should be able to control a muzzle flip decently well with one hand. It's not as good as two hands, but sometimes you get in a situation where you can't use both hands. So it's not bad to train one-handed as well. And if you throw a light on the front there, it's definitely going to keep that muzzle down too. If you guys don't have a light, go down in my description down below, check out Crimson Trace lights, and pick up one for your gun. They're pretty inexpensive and they're decent little lights. Little caveat there, sorry. And then, like I said, once you have all of those under control, then you can start going fast. But you want to start slow. No, make sure that you have all the control. Once you have that under control, then you can start going fast with your firearm. In my mindset for beginner shooters, I think the best is the squared up approach, knees bent a little bit, bent at the waist, arms forward, a little bit of a crease in your elbows, act like you're pushing down a post, get that good grip, line up your sights, and fire. So that is pretty much my conclusion on recoil management for beginners on firearms. Like I said, if you're a beginner, I definitely want you to practice out at the range, and I want you to figure out what's best for you. But those are my tips and tricks to get a little bit safer, a little bit more comfortable with your firearm. So that way when you're at the range, you're going to practice on other things like trigger discipline, which we'll go over in a future video. But if you guys like this kind of video, like, comment, share. Tell me in the description if this is your first time shooting, or if you've been to the range 100 times and maybe this video helped you or helped a friend. I do have some affiliate links if you want to get some really cool merch. Go on down, support the channel, help me grow, help me get bigger, and I'll see you for the next one, guys.
I got a God complex. Haters love to hate, but I never feel pressed. Got a lot on my plate, but I never get stressed. I'll take all the pressure like I'm acing this test. And like a damn Freemason, I'll run this nation. They call me a